Welcome back to the second part of today's lecture. In this part, I briefly want to talk about how we can manage to maintain false beliefs. Because often stereotypes can be shown to be false, but that doesn't mean that they disappear. And obviously this is not just true for stereotypes. It's also true for political opinions and many other things. So it's worth thinking about how people can manage to maintain false beliefs. And the most interesting study in this field was conducted by Leon Festinger in the 1950s, who came across a cult who strongly believed that the world was going to end on a certain day, and that through specific observances, giving away their property, praying a lot, they could summon aliens to whisk them away just before the world was going to end. Festinger didn't quite believe that, but he thought it would be very interesting to see what happens when the prophecy fails. So he joined the cult and spent time with them on the night when the world was supposed to end and they were supposed to leave the earth. They were meant to be picked up by the spaceship at midnight. And Festinger wondered what's going to happen after midnight when their prophecy has failed. So midnight came and went, and the majority of cult members came out of that night with stronger beliefs that they had seen the truth. How did that work? Their prophecy failed, but it's undeniable this confirmation still strengthened their belief. And Festinger argues that that can happen if there's a deep conviction and if there is social support. Because people who were not so deeply convicted and connected to the other cult members left at that point. So a couple of people left, but the ones who were initially deeply convicted and connected to the group, they stayed. Of course, they didn't believe that the world had ended and that they had left Earth on a spaceship, but they believed that only their prayers had saved the Earth and pushed the date back a little bit. So they did change their beliefs, but very minimally so. And Festinger suggests that that's most likely to happen when there has been a costly commitment to the belief. So those cult members gave away all their property and had to remove all metal from their body. So they did a lot to prepare for leaving the planet. There had been this costly commitment. Of course, few people go as deeply into a false set of beliefs, but later research has suggested that as a tendency, it's very common to behave along those lines. And the tendency is that to avoid cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance arises when we hold two contradictory beliefs. That's uncomfortable. We need to expend energy to reconcile the beliefs, and we are reminded that we might not be able to be quite sure of our beliefs. So cognitive dissonance is unpleasant. What do people do? They tend to try to modify their beliefs as little as possible and slot new information into it, or to just reject new information as fake news. So this unwillingness to entertain alternative beliefs because of the unpleasantness that entails is an important reason for why false beliefs can be quite sticky. A related reason is around confirmation bias. There's a lot of information out there, only some of which confirms our beliefs. And that tends to be what we all latch onto. So if we believe that immigrants are a great thing, that immigrants enrich the country, and so on, we tend to latch onto the few news items, the few pieces of evidence that support that. We don't systematically try to check whether other things we assume to be facts are indeed facts. So we're not very interested in things that would disconfirm our beliefs directly. And we're also not very interested in information that might add to our beliefs, that might require us to make them more nuanced. So in this Venn diagram, we really overvalue this very small portion in the middle and tend to disregard the remainder. And it's quite universal. And you might reflect on whether you sometimes engage with that, and also want to reflect on why that is an attractive thing to focus on. It's one example of motivated reasoning. Another aspect is that most people tend to have a very weak grasp on the facts that would inform intergroup relations. And also, many people don't really seem to see statistics, to see facts about social arrangements as something that's independent of opinions. There's very interesting research asking people, what do you estimate crime rates to be? Who commits crime? How many immigrants are there? And the estimates are hugely off. In the UK, people estimate the share of immigrants to be about twice as high as it actually is. In many other countries, the gap is larger still. And then the question is, are they just misinformed? Or do they actually see facts and conversations about facts as a way to express opinions? So the opinion is there are too many immigrants. The way to express that is to say, well, I think half the population are immigrants. If that's how we deal with facts, clearly fact-checking becomes problematic. And presenting facts might not be enough to undermine false beliefs. And then this combined situation where we don't take facts all that seriously and we only look for information that confirms our beliefs is then the foundation for motivated reasoning, for the ability to take almost any fact and slot it into our existing beliefs, or alternatively, to find reasons to dismiss the statistics, the pieces of research that don't support our favorite position. So we have those three related aspects that help us to sustain whatever beliefs we like to sustain. There is two readings that I would encourage you to have a brief look at. The book Mistakes Were Made, But Not By Me. It's actually quite a fun read. It's mostly about cognitive dissonance. So they show a reference to quite a few scientific studies, but still in a popular science style, how initial commitments to some idea quickly become quite costly and dear to those holding those ideas, that it's very hard to change course. And of course, in a popular science book, they share some good ideas for how we can avoid those traps in our own life. So if you're interested, I'd recommend that. I definitely recommend having a quick look at the perils of perceptions. It's an Ipsos Mori survey where they ask people around the world to estimate some basic facts about their country. And it's interesting to see how systematically wrong a majority of people are. So it's not that we just have no idea how many immigrants there are, how often people have sex, how government spending is allocated. It's not just that we have no idea, but we have very predictable biases in that. Clearly, a survey is not going to explain where those biases come from, but being aware of them is an interesting first step. So thanks for watching this part. In the next part, I'm again going to return directly to the question of prejudice. I'm going to talk about the impact it has. So see you there.